I've never felt anything like that before. It was horrible.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to Plunder True Crime.
Yes. Oh, yeah. She used that. One of these people, Plunder or somebody,
True Crime
YouTuber, used that information to dig up information about when your mom and I had our issues 20, 30 years ago, and brought that up. You know, her clickbait headline says, you know, $3,700 lawsuit, you know, some creditor suing it. So, you know, they're just taking everything and everything and trying to make something of it when nothing exists. You know, but supposedly calling you a mama's boy and what have you. So it's quite a circus. I don't watch any of it. People just tell me about it. I don't bother with it because it's all bullshit.
Well, hey, I am a mama's boy anyway. I've never been ashamed of that.
No, I'm just kidding. Stephan Sterns' dad is not the first person to nickname this channel Plunder. So, you know, just like people call Ellen DeGeneres degenerate. And she's like, people have been calling me that since the 4th grade. You know, you're not saying anything new. Anyway, this call has made me laugh out loud in some parts, and other parts, it's just horrible. I've got to tell you how I got this call, first of all. I've been trying literally for like almost 5 months. Since January, thank God the good people of Florida finally sent it to me. I paid for it. What a mess. Basically, let me tell you how I found out this call even existed. Going through all the plethora of documents in the Stephan Sterns case. Boy, we're going to hear a lot in this call. I'm like, where do I start? I mean, Stephan is going to talk about Jennifer. Did she go into the mental institution just to get the cops or the cuffs away from her?
So you said that you went to the mental hospital. Whatever happened with...
I don't know what's happening. We don't know how to get a hold of anybody.
I see.
And supposedly has institutionalized himself. So.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. What you said that was what, to keep the cops off of her?
Supposedly on the advice of her attorney.
I see. Did you guys ever get the silver Lincoln back?
Oh, he's going to talk about I never felt anything like that before. He wouldn't have wanted Maddie gone. I mean, there's so much in this call. Besides Chris Sterns mentioning my YouTube videos, I'm just like flabbergasted. Thank God I finally got it.
Because as far as we're concerned, we know that she's responsible. To what degree, we don't know, but I don't believe you killed her, so...
No, that's good because, you know, it's one of the few people who do, but you know that I would never have wanted that for her.
Yeah.
This is how I got it. Okay, way back in January, you know how we've been digging through these documents in the Jenn Soto very sad case, 13-year-old out of Florida. Her mother's boyfriend is charged with doing horrific things to her. He's accused of taking her life. In the documents, we saw on April 10th, 2024, around 2:53, and we don't get a date in this audio coming up. And by the way, if you don't want to hear me ramble in my commentary, you can visit the link below and get the full call from my Patreon. In the documents, we saw April 10th around 2:53 p.m. This is only like a month after Stephan Sterns was brought into custody on March 1st. Stephan called his dad, he used his inmate ID, and these words, these phrases were so significant that they put it in the documents. Stephan tells Chris, you know that I would have never wanted that for her. He's talking about Madeline. Now at this point, that's in response, as you'll hear, to Chris saying, basically, Stephan, we don't think you killed her. We think it was a cover-up by Jen's family and all that. And then this is the point where Stephan in here also says, like they say in the documents, I'm not really sure that any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it.
So just see how all this plays out.
Well, I'm not sure that really any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it, but It certainly shattered me.
Stephan also tells his dad, I have never felt anything like that before. It was horrible. You'll see in context coming up where Chris is going to kind of change the subject. The document also says Chris tells Stephan the truth will come out. Stephan responds, well, yeah, as if he was dodging that statement.
I mean, I just hope the truth comes out at some point.
Well, yeah.
And it says this call was downloaded and submitted to evidence.com. Now, as we got the other calls, previously we've gotten 14, I believe, so this should be call number 15, even though it's like one of the first calls. You'll see they don't really know what's going on here, what they're doing. They're going to talk about calls leaking. They're going to accuse the jailers of getting paid to leak calls, all this crazy stuff.
I'm hoping that this conversation, obviously somebody in the county jail is selling this information. So I'm waiting to see if these conversations surface, because as far as I know, this is supposed to be private conversation. Obviously, the jail can monitor it, but it's not supposed to be released to the public.
And they will be. Yeah, supposedly a redacted version of my arrest report was leaked to the public as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I'm not sure who's leaking all this stuff, or what sort of effect that has on all the proceedings.
This is a high-profile case, and so somebody in there is looking to make a buck.
Yeah, well, I imagine this probably taints the whole process, well.
Anyway, in digging through things and putting through all the FOIAs, all the previous calls we paid for, all that stuff, I was like, wait a minute, we still don't have this call. I do not remember hearing Stephan say, I've never felt anything like that before. It was horrible. Well, initially they gave us a call and they told us the wrong date. So back in January, I was like, I want the April 10th call, not the incorrectly dated May 2024 call we already have. So even though people may think we have this April 10th call, no, it's stuff we've never heard before. Kissimmee police had told me, please contact the jail for a copy of this. But I was like, the jail doesn't release these recordings. I mean, it's like a chain of 17 emails here. I'll spare you the details. I'll let you listen to the call. We're going to talk about it with my commentary interspersed in between. But that's where all the confusion lay. So I've paid for this call. You guys know I sent the money order down to Florida. So that's this one. I'm still expecting more calls, but to tell you the truth, the documents, the dates, certain things are so confusing. I had to figure out through context and through the documents what date this call happened, because you won't hear the date on the audio. But anyway, we're going to get into it and talk about all the crazy things that Stephan and his dad talk about. Oh boy. So it starts off with the time basically is 2:51 p.m. It does not give a date in this audio like the previous calls did.
The time is 2:51 p.m.
United States of America.
You have 1 old message. To listen to your messages, please return to the main menu. Press 0 to make a prepaid collect call or speed dial call. Press 1 to make a debit call. Press 8 for calls within the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean. Please enter the area code, prefix, and number. To make an international call, please enter 011, the country code. Your account balance is $46.85.
I just realized she said Stephan's account balance was $46.85 at this point. I don't know if that was his phone account balance or his commissary balance. But during this call, his dad, Chris, is going to tell him he had just deposited $100 on his phone account. So I'm thinking, was that all spent towards speaking to his parents or someone else? That's why I keep going for more records to get this clear.
The cost of this call will be 21 cents for the first minute and 21 cents for each additional minute, excluding taxes and other applicable fees. The time limit is 15 minutes.
Press 0 to continue or
have a call at no
Hello?
expense to you from
Stephan Sterns.
an inmate at
Osceola County Corrections Department.
To accept this call, press or say 5. To refuse, this call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. Thank you for using IC Solutions. You may begin speaking now.
I thought we weren't going to hear from you till tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I could actually call right back after the 15 minutes was up.
Oh, I'm not walking, so it's just going to be you and me.
Okay, that's fine.
But Chris is answering and he's like, hello, I thought we weren't going to hear from you until tomorrow. Stearns is telling him, yeah, I didn't realize, Dad, we could call back. You know, they're learning. This is still very early in the case. This is April 10th, 2024, only a month after. I'm still in the process of getting more data about which calls we're missing and which ones can be released, and it's like a, kind of crapshoot. You have to figure out the dates. So Chris is saying, I'm walking, so it's just me. So this is great because to me it kind of forces Stephan to speak a little louder. He speaks a little bit clearer than the other phone calls, and I just like it. Deborah's not there to interrupt, and this father and son do kind of get into a deep conversation.
You'd been asking me where the watch was, and I tried to quickly convey those instructions to you. Did you still need me to go over that with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So at the foot of my bed, there's a bunch of my, boxes from when I moved there.
Yes.
On top of those boxes, there should be a green tin with kind of like a gold eagle on the top of it. It's like a Warhammer ammo box tin. The watch is either in there, or if it's not in there, it's going to be in one of the boxes at the foot of my bed. If you look inside, there's a Disney popcorn bucket in the shape of a Star Wars mouse droid. It's like a little silver box with wheels on it, basically, and a brown strap. It could be in there because I put some important stuff in there. I think my Social Security card and birth certificate might be in there as well. Did you get that?
Okay. So describe this Disney pin again.
It's a mouse droid popcorn bucket that's in one of the boxes at the foot of my bed. So it's like a little silver, little boxy looking droid with a brown strap on it. It's actually a popcorn bucket. But I use it to store some documents and stuff, and the watch might be in there if it's not in the green tin on top of the boxes.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Some other things I wanted to ask.
Well, Stephan's saying, well, that's fine. Of course, he starts talking about this watch, this missing Omega watch once again. He's like, you'd asked me where the watch was, and I tried to quickly convey those instructions to you. Do you need me to go over that? So obviously they've talked about, where's this watch? Where's this watch? And Chris is like, yes, give me the instructions again. Stephan says, so at the foot of my bed, there are boxes from when I moved there. So this must be when he moved in December away from Jenn Soto and Madeline's condo and moved back home to Northport with his parents. Stephan is saying on top of those boxes there should be a green tin with a golden eagle on top, like a Warhammer ammo box. Sometimes I have to look for the photos to put them up here to kind of see what he's talking about. Stephan says the watch is either in there or in one of the boxes at the foot of my bed. If you look inside, there's a Disney popcorn box with like a mouse droid, the shape of a silver box with wheels on it with like a black strap. He's saying it could be in there because I put some important stuff in there. I think my Social Security card and birth certificate might be in there as well. Did you get that? And Chris is like, okay, describe this Disney 10 again. Like he's like, what are you talking about? Especially if it's a person where we're adults, and I mean, it's cool to kind of play with childish things. I'm not saying don't be childish or don't have fun, but Chris is probably like, what? Mouse droid popcorn box? What? Stephan says it's a mouse droid popcorn bucket that's in one of the boxes at the foot of my bed. So it's just like a little silver, little boxy looking droid with a brown strap on it. It's actually a popcorn bucket. But Stephan says I use it to store some documents and stuff, and the watch might be in there if it's not on top of the green tin. Chris is like, yeah, okay, sorry.
So you said that you went to the mental hospital. Whatever happened with...
I don't know what's happening. We don't know how to get a hold of anybody.
I see.
And supposedly has institutionalized himself. So.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. What you said that was what, to keep the cops off of her?
Supposedly on the advice of her attorney.
I see. Did you guys ever get the silver Lincoln back?
Stephan says some other things I wanted to ask. So you said that Jenn went to the mental hospital. Whatever happened with redacted? Now, they did drop out Jenn's name. They didn't say Jenn's name here. They obviously redacted it out of this audio. That's why it takes so long by the time we send the money order and they have to go through and see what can be redacted and all that. So obviously he's talking about Jenn going to the mental hospital, but I don't know who else he's asking about. And Chris says, I don't know what's happening with whatever. We don't know how to get a hold of anybody. Stephan says, I see. Chris says, and supposedly, let me know what you hear here. I don't know if he's saying, Stephan, it's the truth that Jennifer went to the mental hospital, or it's just an act. It's hard. He's outside. Maybe the audio got warped. I can't figure it out. Well, I figured it out during editing, and I heard Chris say, and supposedly Jennifer, her name is dropped out again, has gone and institutionalized herself. So that's what it sounds like Chris is saying.
And supposedly has institutionalized herself. So.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. What you said that was what, to keep the cops off of her?
Supposedly on the advice of her attorney.
I see.
Stephan says, yeah, probably. What you said, that was to keep the cops off of her or cuffs off of her. So obviously Stephan is asking, is Jennifer doing this mental hospital routine just to avoid being arrested? Chris says supposedly on the advice of her attorney. So is Jennifer's attorney telling her, go check into a mental hospital? Is that what they told her back then?
Did you guys ever get the silver Lincoln back?
Oh no, we don't expect to see that until the trial.
Okay. And I assume none of the belongings that were left were able to be retrieved either, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, the police had the gun, so that can be released to me. Of course, the phone I let you use, So they said they would release that to me. So I got to see if I can get that.
Yeah, because obviously, I didn't even really use it, so.
So Stephan says, did you guys ever get the silver Lincoln back? Now, that's the Lincoln where Stephan was seen transporting Maddie all around town until he disposed of her in those bamboo bushes. Chris is like, we don't expect to see that until we get to the trial or after the trial or something. So I guess they still have that Lincoln. Perhaps at this point they had it impounded somewhere, evidence. Stephan says, okay. Now, was Stephan asking that because he really cares about his parents getting the Lincoln back? Did he want them to sell it? Is there even more evidence in there he wants hidden? What? Stephan says, okay, and I assume that none of my belongings that were left were ever able to be retrieved, huh? And I don't know what he's looking for. Is there more evidence or just Stephan thinks he'll be able to get his clothes and stuff back or whatever? Chris is like, yep, the police have the pew-pew, so that can be released to me. And the phone I let you use, and Stephan's like, they took it? Or Chris said they released that to me. I got to see if I can get that. So remember those last days before Stephan was brought into custody, that Wednesday, February 28th, and arrested 2024, Chris had let him use his phone because we know the big to-do is over the phone. The way Detective Myra Tagler sees the phone, so she took it, that Tuesday? I believe it was Tuesday, late Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. At some point, Chris gave Stephan his phone, but he only had it maybe for a day. And we could see Stephan in the interview room with Chris's phone. Stephan says, yeah, because obviously I didn't even really use it, so.
By the way, the body camera, the camera in the sheriff's deputy's car that escorted you from Orange County to Osceola County, all that video and audio, somebody got a hold of and it's out on the internet with YouTube.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So these YouTubers, these amateur sleuths, who have now decided to make it their life's work to try to uncover the real Stephan Sterns, and of course they're drilling down, to the whole family and making quite a circus of the whole thing. That entire video is on YouTube. The entire conversation you had with that deputy.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure we talked about music most of the time.
Yes. Oh, yeah. She used that. One of these people, Plunder or somebody,
True crime
YouTuber, used that information to dig up information about when your mom and I had our issues 20, 30 years ago, and brought that up. Her clickbait headline says, $3,700 lawsuit, some creditor suing you. So, they're just taking everything and everything and trying to make something of it when nothing exists. But supposedly, calling you mama's boy and what have you. So, it's quite a circus. I don't watch any of it. People just tell me about it. I don't bother with it because it's all bullshit.
Well, hey, I am a mama's boy anyway. I've never been ashamed of that.
Yeah. But I'm...
So Chris, he starts talking about YouTubers and Plunder. That cracked me up. Anyway, Chris is like, by the way, the body camera, the camera in the sheriff's deputy's car that escorted you from Orange County to Osceola County, all that video and audio, somebody got a hold of it. I found it on the internet with YouTube. Stephan's like, oh, really? Wow. So this helped me. It gave me a date because I was like, oh, go back and see when you published it. So I did publish one video on April 3rd, 2024. It's titled Stephan Sterns' March 1st, 2024 body cam video. First night, I was on a concrete floor with a roll of toilet paper. Remember, he said that he was complaining to the deputy. So I was like, okay, I published that April 3rd. And they're also going to talk about April 6th, 2024. I published a video titled Stephan Sterns' Mom and Dad Divorce Drama PDF, his $3,700 credit card lawsuit, 10 traffic tickets. I published that on April 6th, 2024. So it really helped me confirm, okay, those videos had just come out. This call is April 10th. So they helped me figure out the timeline. But Chris starts going in. So these YouTubers, these amateur sleuths, have now decided to make it their life's work, yeah, if Jesus says it is, to try and uncover the real Stephan Sterns. And of course, they're drilling down through the whole family and making quite a circus of the whole thing. So Chris is like, that entire video of his transport is on YouTube and your conversation you had with the deputy. And Stephan's like, I'm pretty sure we talked about music most of the time. So yeah, Stephan talked a little bit about his childhood. I'll put the links to those videos below too so you can see what this conversation's about. Anyway, I'm getting to the Plunder part. That always makes me laugh when people say that. Chris is like, oh yeah, she used that. One of these people, Plunder or somebody, YouTuber. So yes, I remember kind of going through that whole transport video and really trying to hear what Stephan was telling that officer. He talked about growing up on the farm and, falling into that pile of manure. The officer was coughing, taking cough drops, and he was moaning about his core body temperature being low. You guys remember all that. That's what Chris is telling him, leaked. They're going to talk more about leaked stuff. Anyway, Chris is like, me, Plunder over here, had information to dig up information about when your mom and I had our issues 20, 30 years ago and brought that up. Her clickbait headline is not clickbait if it's true. Let me tell you that. Her clickbait headline said $3,700 lawsuit. Some creditor sued you. So they're just taking everything from everything and trying to make something of it when nothing exists. Now, of course, when this case happened, all of us kind of fell in love with Maddie and her plight and just wanting to see justice for this little girl who should have been allowed to live as a little girl and should have not been just handed off on a silver platter to this monster. I think so many survivors talk about how they relate to Maddie. And so that's why there was this anger there to figure out Stephan, who is he? I started digging into his background. I saw these 10 traffic tickets. I saw the lawsuit. And believe me, that's not saying I'm better than or holier than thou than anyone. I've had a lawsuit before. I'm saying we were curious. We were curious about Stephan and how he grew up and just what turned him into this monster. And in no way am I blaming his parents, and by me digging into their divorce drama, the only fascinating part I saw about that is me just being curious about a person's childhood. What happened here? They're going to use his childhood, TBI, probably as his big defense, so everyone's going to dig into his past. I felt bad for his parents for what they went through. This was not me digging into it just to claim any kind of moral superiority over anybody or anything. Obviously, Chris doesn't want to talk about it. It's hard for us all to reflect on our own actions of what we've been through. I've been divorced. It's a thing. People go through stuff. But in those divorce papers, I did find it interesting to see what Deborah went through, what she talked about with her husband, and you guys can read it all. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but that's why I dig into stuff, and obviously a lot of you guys are interested in it as well. I get still a lot of feedback about all that. But Chris is like, supposedly, oh, you're a mama's boy. So I had to go find the thumbnail when I was like, oh yeah, I did kind of put him in his mom's arms, like she was hugging him, and I titled it Mama's Boy. Stephan kind of laughed there. Then Chris said, it's quite a circus. I don't watch any of it. People just tell me about it because it's all BS. Well, it's not all BS. It's court records. These are public court records. I didn't go stand outside their window and tap their phones or put audio somewhere. This is just, all of this is in the Florida court documents. There's stuff in California too. I believe they've lived different places. This is all public record information. Like BJ Investigates says, facts ain't defamation. Okay, it's just a fact. It just happened. Anyway, Stephan is saying, well, hey, I am a mama's boy. I've never been ashamed of that. So he admits it. I don't know if that was kind of a slight towards his dad or just a fact or whatever. He admitted it. Nothing really wrong with that, except if it leads you down the path that Stephan took. And in no way am I blaming his mom for anything that happened either.
I'm hoping that this conversation, obviously somebody in the county jail is selling this information. So I'm waiting to see if these conversations surface, because as far as I know, this is supposed to be private conversation. Obviously, the jail can monitor it, but it's not supposed to be released to the public.
And there will be, supposedly a redacted version of my arrest report was leaked to the public as well.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure who's leaking all this stuff, or what sort of effect that has on all the proceedings.
This is a high-profile case, and so somebody in there is looking to make a buck.
Yeah, well, I imagine this probably taints the whole process, well.
Anyway, Chris is saying, I hope that this conversation, obviously, somebody in the county jail is selling this information. No, not true. Anyway, Chris says, so I'm waiting to see if these conversations surface, because as far as I know, this is supposed to be a private conversation. Obviously, the jail can monitor it, but it's not supposed to be released to the public. Well, that shows you how little Chris knows about the state of public records, the Freedom of Information Act. It trips me out when people, even some YouTubers, will put it in their titles and they'll say, these jail calls leaked. And I'm like, nothing's leaked. You request it. You request it. And many times you have to pay real money for it. And a lot of them don't even let you pay with your credit card. You got to go through the whole shebang. Like I'm about to leave here and go to the post office, send off another check to a different place in Florida. Anyway, I'm surprised Chris doesn't know this, but a lot of people don't know this if they don't follow true crime. And Stephan's like, oh yeah, and they will be. Supposedly a redacted version of my arrest report was leaked to the public as well. So I'm not sure who's leaking all this stuff or what sort of effect it'll have on all the proceedings. Now he sounds like Jennifer. Remember in that one Jennifer audio interview, it's really bad. But Jennifer's like, and my family told me that someone leaked the report, she might be talking about the arrest affidavit, one of these documents. We have so many. But Jennifer's like, and my family told me someone leaked it like to the New York Times or something. And the details in there, they told me, don't read it. Don't read it. It's so funny how, I don't know, when people don't want to face the facts of what the documents contain or what the allegations are, they just start blaming the press or YouTubers for leaking stuff. When there's a literal legal process for us to just go through and request these records legally, and legally we have the right to publish them. So it's so weird. Anyway, Chris is like, this is a high profile case, so somebody in there is looking to make a buck. So now he's accusing the jailers of leaking these phone calls. I did not get this from the jail. No one leaked this to me. It's not some backdoor thing. Anyway, it's public records. It's a whole process. It's an entire law. It's perfectly legal. Anyway, Stephan's like, I imagine this changed the whole process, so who knows what's going to happen with that. Actually, Stephan said, I imagine this taints the whole process, so who knows what's going to happen with that. So I see where he's trying to play a game saying, oh, well, everything's tainted now because of these YouTubers.
So, who knows what's going to happen with that, but, so I told you where the watch was. In addition to that, I found your wedding band when we were cleaning out the storage.
Okay.
That's in a black ring box on the shelf above my desk.
I think we found that. Yeah.
You found that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. But, I just want to let you know that was found. I'm not totally sure where my family ring is.
I have it.
Oh, you have it. Okay. So you found that.
It was on the shelf.
It was on the shelf. Okay. I thought it might have been, but I wasn't super sure.
Yeah. What about the Rolex?
I've never had that. It was given to you, and I never had possession of it.
Then your mother did something with it, but we have to figure out where she stuck it.
Yeah, unless it was sold while we were still in Summerport.
No, it was here at the house. It was here. Yeah. I mean, it was here. I seen it earlier. Well, I seen it in 2023. But it doesn't matter.
I never had it.
So I told you where the watch was. In addition to that, I found your wedding band when we were cleaning out the storage. So that was like, wow. When was he cleaning out the storage? He makes it sound like Stephan and his dad, or what does he mean? When was Stephan cleaning out that storage? Was it the day they thought he came down there? And I don't know, that confused me. Chris is like, okay. And Stephan's like, that's in a black ring box on the shelf above my desk. And Chris is like, I think we found that. So was Stephan cleaning out some storage with his mom, or I don't know. And it's almost like a subtle dig, because Chris is already talking about, okay, the stuff, your mom and I went through, it was like almost a divorce drama. They didn't get divorced. Watch the other video, read the documents if you want to see the details. Some stuff Deborah wrote is fascinating to me. But Stephan turns it right around from talking about these leaked calls to, oh, Dad, I found your wedding ring off in storage somewhere. It's almost like a subtle dig, like a thorn in the side, a knife in the side to his dad. I think there's something there. I think there's something there Stephan feels that he's not saying. And I know people are like, oh, we shouldn't care about his feelings. It's not about me caring about his feelings. I just like to dig into the mind of a criminal to figure out, or alleged criminal, to figure out, how did they get this way? What are they feeling? Why would they do this? Who would harm a child? So anyway, Chris is like, I think we found that. So it's almost like a dig towards his dad, like, found your wedding ring. Obviously it's not on your finger. Is this something you just put away in storage, almost put it up on the shelf like with me and Mom? Is that what he's insinuating? Anyway, at the end, Stephan is going to have the nerve to kind of give them marriage advice almost. You'll see. So Stephan's like, I just wanted to let you know that was found, his wedding ring. I'm not totally sure where my family ring is. So Chris is like, I have it. So what family ring? Some kind of signet ring, maybe? You know, he has like that family crest type of tattoo on his back. It probably says Sustene on it, I bet, whatever ring it is. Chris is like, I have it. Oh, you have it? Stephan says it was on the shelf. I thought it might have been, but I wasn't super sure. So was Chris's wedding ring in storage on a shelf somewhere? This is getting weirder. Anyway, Chris is like, what about the that Rolex, you know? Stephan's still insisting, I never had that. Yeah, it was given to you and I never had possession of it. So Chris is like, maybe your mother did something with it. You know, we have to figure out where she stuck it. So Stephan's like, unless it was sold while we were still in Summerport. So I see I've run a background check on Stephan. I know they used to live somewhere on Summerport Village Parkway in Windermere, Florida. Looks like there's a bunch of stores there now. I don't see apartments or whatever. But I wonder if Stephan, once again, is digging. Is he saying, Mom and I were in Summerport and maybe was Chris there with them, or were Deborah and Chris separated at this point? Is Stephan trying to insinuate or blame his mom and saying maybe she pawned the Rolex? I don't know. But Chris is like, no, it was here at the house. I seen it. Sounds like he says I seen it earlier. Well, I seen it in 2023. That's one of my pet peeves when people say, I seen it. I seen it. Anyway, he saw it earlier. He must have seen it. He must have seen it in 2023. Stephan's still like, I never had it. Chris is like, it doesn't matter.
So I finally got the commissary information. So you need some boxer shorts?
Yeah, definitely. I've been going commando this entire time.
What size? Large, extra large?
I think just large would probably do. I mean, whatever will fit a 36 waist.
Do they have the ability to wash and stuff?
I'm sorry?
Do they have the ability to wash this stuff?
Yeah, I believe they collect laundry and do washing like once a week or so. I think from what I know.
So
I'm not sure. But,
I'll get you a couple pairs, and you need socks?
Yeah, I'll probably need that. In the meantime, I was going to hold off on making any, like extraneous orders through commissary and whatnot until we find out more.
So he switches and he's like, so I finally got the commissary info. So this is when they haven't even given him commissary yet. And stay tuned because I'm trying to get more of that information. I've got a big request in for just some full list of calls, full list of stuff, because I'm like, this piecemeal stuff is a little confusing and I kind of want to see a full list. Anyway, he finally got the commissary info. So you need some boxer shorts, Chris is asking him. Stephan's like, yeah, definitely. I've been going commando this entire time. I was like, ugh. It's one of those things like, okay, don't put that in my mind. Chris is like, okay, what size? Large, extra large? Stephan says, I think just large will probably do. So he's thinking large will suffice, whatever will fit a 36-inch waist guy, I believe he has. Some stuff still is hard to hear. Let me know if you hear different things than what I've transcribed. Chris says, do they have the ability to wash your stuff? Stephan says, yeah, I believe they collect laundry and do wash like once a week or so from what I hear. Chris says, okay, I'll get you a couple pairs and you need socks. Stephan's like, yeah, I'll probably need that. In the meantime, I was going to hold off on making any extraneous orders from commissary, not until we find out more. So he's thinking he's going to get out of there at this point. He's only been there about a month.
I mean, I'm not sure exactly how long I'm going to be here, so... I did want to mention to you that my first mandatory court appearance that cannot be waived will be at the end of this month, sometime between the 26th and 28th.
Supposedly I thought was the 24th of April.
Well, it could be then too. I got basically a rough estimate from one of the attorneys that is kind of associated with the case, but not really the main one. So yeah, it's going to be towards the end of this month. I guess before or after my birthday, probably. But,
yeah. And supposedly the trial's supposed to be May 14th.
Oh, I hadn't heard that, but I guess you might know more than I do.
Well, and again, following mainstream media only, whatever they have in the paper.
Well, they've got better sources than I do because I'm pretty much, in the dark most of the time here.
Yeah, well, again, I don't follow anything but mainstream media because everything else is just bullshit.
Yeah.
People making a circus of it.
Yeah. So
Stephan says, I'm not sure exactly how long I'm going to be here, so I did want to mention that too. That my first mandatory court appearance that cannot be waived will be at the end of this month, sometime between the 26th and the 28th. And Chris is like, supposedly I thought it was the 24th of April. Stephan says it could be then too. I got kind of like a rough estimate from one of the attorneys that's kind of associated with the case, but not really the main one. I wonder if he means Alicia. Stephan says, so yeah, it's going to be towards the end of this month, I guess before or after my birthday. I was looking it up to see on the court website, Osceola court website, which hearings he had around then. So the CSAM case indeed had a hearing at 9 a.m., April 24th, 2024. So his dad was right. You know, it was the pre-trial hearing. And then on the first degree capital case, it was April 25th. It was on his birthday last year. It says event held, initial appearance at 1 p.m. Now, since then, it's been more than a year. He's had another birthday. He should be 39 right now. He's staring down at 40 next year. So Chris says, and supposedly the trial's supposed to be May 14th. And now we know this has been long continued, so it wasn't then. But Stephan's like, oh, I hadn't heard that. But I guess you might know more than I do. Chris says, follow mainstream media only, whatever they have in the paper. Stephan's like, well, they've got better sources than I do because I'm pretty much in the dark most of the time here. And so Chris is like, again, I don't follow anything but mainstream media because everything else is just BS. People making it so pathetic. It's so funny, again, when you see people that have so much ire for YouTubers or whatever, but they're not angry at the person who's accused of committing the heinous crime. They're angry at the people like us who are digging into it. The mainstream media doesn't necessarily have more info than we do. Sometimes the mainstream media gets it wrong. Of course, sometimes I make mistakes too, but I try to always quote my sources and just put so much proof on the screen. I mean, we're all looking at the Osceola court website, or we're in touch with the DA's office or different police entities we've gotten all this info from. So mainstream media is doing a lot of the same thing, or YouTubers were doing a lot of the same things mainstream media has done. And some of us were digging further. We're creating almost like these 2-hour long deep dives, documentaries that the mainstream media doesn't have time necessarily or the resources to do. So it's like they're not quite understanding this new digital world of information and YouTube true crime and all that. Chris is calling it BS and pathetic, but of course it's because he doesn't want to see himself reflected back or, you know, these public documents discussed, and he doesn't want to, of course, discuss his faults in his marriage. I understand that. I wouldn't want to discuss mine either. That's why I put the onus on Stephan for basically dragging his parents into the light where they didn't want to be, in a bad spotlight. So my heart still goes out to them because I can't imagine what it would be like, again, to have a son like Stephan, all these mixed feelings. You like probably love him and hate him all at the same time.
Also, these phone calls, they're 21 cents for the first minute and 21 cents for every minute after that with a 15-minute limit. So it's about $3.15 per phone call. If we
Okay, well, I just put $100 into that account.
Okay, perfect. That should last quite a while then. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. So if we needed to ration the calls or anything like that, we could do it.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into our personal lives conversations because I don't trust the system of keeping it confidential. So I want to keep this, as banal as possible.
Anyway, Stephan's like, also, these phone calls, they're 21 cents for the first minute and 21 cents for every minute after that, with a 15-minute limit. So that's $3.15 per phone call. Chris says, okay, well, I just put $100 into that account. So he's like throwing the money in there. Stephan is like, perfect. That should last quite a while, Dad. Or then he says, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. So if we needed to ration the calls or anything, we could do it. So he doesn't say, thank you. Oh my goodness, Dad. Thank you for putting $100 on my phone account. No, he's like, perfect. So Chris is like, yeah, well, I don't want to get into our personal lives, conversations, because I don't trust the system. Keeping it confidential. So I want to keep this as banal as possible. He says banal there. That means so lacking in originality as to be obvious and boring. So Stephan doesn't really maybe heed his advice. He kind of still gets a little personal towards the end. It's almost like he's saying, okay, Dad, but then he's kind of jabbing him in other ways, maybe.
And
how have you guys
just
been?
keep
Has
it that
anyone
way.
been bothering you or anything?
No. It's been quiet. I mean, I really wish they would drop the shoe on all of this stuff, and attention and emphasis would be shifted to her family, because as far as we're concerned, we know that she's responsible. To what degree, we don't know, but I don't believe you killed her, so...
No, that's good, because, it's one of the few people who do, but, you know that I would never have wanted that for her.
Yeah.
And, it broke me. It absolutely broke me.
So I think we believe her family is involved in this and cover up. So we'll just see how all this plays out.
Well, I'm not sure that really any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it, but it certainly shattered me. I mean, if you thought I had PTSD before, well, buckle up,
Yeah.
I've never felt anything like that before. It was horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope the truth comes out at some point.
Well, yeah.
But Stephan is acting like he's really concerned about his parents here. He's like, and how have you been? Has anyone been bothering you or anything? Chris is like, no, it's been quiet. I really wish they would drop the shoe on Jenn, and all this stuff, all this attention and emphasis would be shifted to her family. So mind you, this is when Chris was in a different mindset. More than a year ago, he really felt Jennifer was responsible for all of this. Chris says, because as far as we're concerned, we know that she's responsible. To what degree, we don't know, but I don't believe you killed her, so Chris comes right out with it. He doesn't believe Stephan committed this horrible act, and Stephan's going to co-sign it. No wonder the DA really highlighted this call. Stephan says, no. So he's saying, no, I didn't do it. So Stephan's saying, no, I didn't do it. No wonder he entered his not guilty pleas, because he's flat out denying it here. Even though in the future calls we listen to beyond this, the ensuing calls, he says the weirdo, wacko things that put him there with Maddie when, she was pale, her lips were blue, and all that kind of stuff. But in this call, he's like, no, that's good, because you're one of the few people who do, the few people that believes it wasn't Stephan's hands that committed this horrible crime. He's saying, you're one of the few people who do, because, quote, this was in the document, that I would never have wanted that for her. So he's talking about Madeline and her demise. Chris doesn't bring up the fact that he's got to see the CSAM case charges that Stephan's arrested for, but he's just focused on Maddie's death. So he's like, I know you didn't do that. Stephan's like, it broke me. It absolutely broke me. What about Madeline, the victim? She lost her life. What about beautiful Maddie? What did it do to her? No, Stephan is focused on, it broke me. He's focused on his feelings, his impact. Chris is like, we believe her family is involved in this cover-up. We'll just see how all this plays out. This is where Stephan says, well, I'm not sure really that any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it, but it certainly shattered me. He doesn't go at this point, he hasn't come up with I wouldn't get too carried away with conspiracy theories, Dad. He's like saying, I don't know if one person is responsible, but it shattered me, back to me. And here he goes. Stephan says, if you thought I had PTSD before, well, buckle up, Chris is like, yeah. Stephan says, I have never felt anything like that before. It was horrible. So that's the first part of that quote we got in the documents that I knew we had never heard before. So thank God I finally got it. It was all this back and forth, and I was like, oh my goodness. Oh, she's like, I invoice you. You never paid it. I was like, what? And let me get it down there real quickly. And anyway, I knew we had never heard this, so thank the Lord we finally get to hear it. But Chris doesn't dig in here. He doesn't say, what do you mean I've never felt anything like that before? What are you talking about? Is he talking about the actual act of like strangulation? Or is he saying, emotionally, I never felt anything like that before? I was hoping Chris would dig in here, but instead he goes, I just hope the truth comes out at some point. And Stephan says, yeah. So that's what they put in the documents. And that's why we were able to get this, because it's in the document.
So anyway, we think we can send you the Bible, but there's also a Bible that I can buy online, but let's see if we can get the Bible to you.
Okay.
And a good friend of mine who I will not mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
A good friend of mine whose name I won't mention has been my spiritual mentor advisor since this all came down. Bought me a very nice Bible, so I'm doing Bible study every night, and we have our morning walks and talks. So.
Yep, and I've been reading the Bible that they've been giving me here, and praying for her, and I've been praying for you guys a lot too. And I also wanted to mention that I know you guys get in fights a lot and kind of resent each other a lot of the times, but I wanted just to tell you guys, be good to each other.
We don't resent each other. We have compassionate discussions.
That was maybe a poor choice of words, but I know you guys try to get on each other's nerves every now and then, and I just
if anything, this has made us stronger. We're both joined with our faith, and we're supportive of one another. We talk about all of this periodically. I refuse to listen to any of the bullshit stuff that's out there. As I always say, nobody looks mainstream media. I'll accept that, but nothing else.
Okay. Well,
there's a lot of rumor mills out there.
Just to be good to each other, because you won't have me there to kind of be a buffer anymore. And I'm not sure.
Well, try not to make that sound more than what it is, because it's not any more than that. We have our flare-ups, and then we quickly move on.
Of course, I just want
but we've been very very supportive of one another, and we just know that we're getting through this, and we're putting our faith in God.
Okay.
And we hope you.
Glad to hear that.
We hope you're finding the same.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I worried about you guys. I've been worrying about you guys, so you've been in my prayers and in my thoughts.
I appreciate that. And you as well. After Mother told me this afternoon, she came out of her bedroom the other morning with a question and called out for you, and then realized, he's not here.
You did, or she did?
He did.
She did?
Yeah. I go, hello, not here.
Yeah.
So she slipped a little there mentally.
Yeah. For a long time, I kept expecting to wake up and find out this was all a nightmare.
Believe me, this is all very, very surreal for us.
Yeah.
I think I'm looking.
Thank you for using IC Solutions. Goodbye.
Anyway, Chris switches and says, so anyway, we think we can send you the Bible, but there's also a Bible we can buy online, but let's see if we can get the Bible to you. Chris is talking about a good friend of mine whose name I won't mention has been my spiritual mentor advisor since all this came down, bought me a very nice Bible. So I'm doing Bible study every night, and we have our morning walks and talks. So I guess someone is helping him. Since this whole case, it makes sense. Especially some people only really turn to God when life is just, you're at your rock bottom. Whenever you turn to him, it's good to turn to him. But Chris has a good friend who's helping guide him in scripture, because, this is a doozy, what his son has put them through. So, of course, Stephan has to mimic, and I've been reading the Bible that they've given me here. I've been praying for her. I've been praying for you guys a lot, too. I also wanted to mention that Stephan's saying, look, This is where he's given his parents marriage advice. He's like, I know you guys get in fights a lot and kind of resent each other a lot of the times, but I wanted to tell you guys, be good to each other. Chris is like, we don't resent each other. I almost thought that was the 1 minute remaining lady coming on the way his tone went up, like, we don't resent each other. We have compassionate discussions. Stephan says, yeah, that was maybe a poor choice of words, but I know you guys get on each other's nerves every now and then, and I just wanted to remind you, and Chris is kind of putting the kibosh on this. Look, if anything, this has made us stronger. We are both joined with our faith. We're supportive of one another. We talk about all this periodically. I refuse to listen to any of the BS stuff that's out there. I only watch mainstream media. I'll accept that, but nothing else. Oh, of course, I can imagine he doesn't want to hear about the rough patch his marriage went through. Nobody would. I mean, it's in the divorce records, but they didn't get divorced. Talks about child support and all that stuff. My main reason for digging into his parents was to see how it affected Stephan. But that's why Chris is like, yeah, let's only talk about mainstream media. Well, mainstream media, Chris, is going to be running your son's trial before we know it. Hopefully, we'll get it streamed live whenever these trials happen, if your son doesn't enter a guilty plea or take a deal by then. So you'll have to watch it mainstream media, but I can imagine back then it's still a shock. Chris is like a lot of rumor mills out there, and Stephan's just like almost this only child, just saying, just be good to each other because you won't have me there to be a buffer anymore. I'm not sure. So just like Stephan called himself a buffer between Jenn and Maddie when they fought, now he's saying he was a buffer between his parents when they argued. Argued is a better word, because Chris continues and says, try not to make it sound like any more than it is, because it's not anything more than that. So I get what he's saying. Chris is saying we have our flare-ups and then we quickly move on. But we've been very supportive of one another, and just know we're getting through this and we're putting our faith in God. So I understand what he's saying. Chris is saying, look, on this recorded line, that's going to be on YouTube on that Plunder account, don't make this sound like, something it's not. And I get what he's saying there. And even on this side, I saw Stephan's part a little bit because, my parents would argue and you hear it and it's disconcerting growing up and you just hate that sound of arguing. Thankfully, they never really got too physical with each other. They stayed married, but almost on paper only. But they were great people, but my sister used to entertain me while they were fighting. And I imagine Stephan almost being an only child if his brother was out of the house or whatever, and, he's trying to deal with his parents and be a go-between. Anyway, at this point, there's 1 minute remaining. I don't think they hear it or acknowledge it because Stephan keeps talking. He's like, glad to hear that, glad to hear it. I've been worrying about you guys. You've been in my prayers and in my thoughts. It's almost like thoughts and prayers. He doesn't know what to say. And Chris is like, I appreciate that, and you as well. Matter of fact, your mother told me this afternoon she came out of her bedroom with a question and called out for you. And it's like, duh, he's not here. I felt bad, a little sad for Deborah there too, because it's just so normal for her. I'm sure it's just like, Stephan, and it's like, oh, he's not here. It reminds me of when someone you love dies and your natural instinct is to pick up the phone and call them. That's what that reminded me of. And you're like, oh, wait, I can't call them. Well, even after my mom died suddenly, I was 30, she was 68, died in her sleep, woke up with Jesus, like my one coworker said. I was so shocked. I literally used to dial, her cell phone just to hear her outgoing message, just to hear her voice again. It ended up being good for me. You guys know that's how I really turned my life over to Christ. And I don't wish ill will for these parents. I really don't want Chris and Deborah to think like I dug into whatever was going on with their would-be divorce to be messy or to be hurtful or to be unchristian-like. I'm just trying to dig like I did to get this call. God opened my eyes to see this call even existed, and because most people out there are like, oh yeah, we have pretty much a lot of the calls already, and they weren't following up. And so that's why I was like, no, we're missing this one. And I just kept at it, and thank God we got it. But my whole point is like, we're digging to find the truth because our ultimate goal is to see Maddie get justice. She did not deserve to live the life she lived. And I wish some of that vitriol and anger could be turned towards the perpetrator who took her life. That makes sense. Anyway, Stephan's like saying, wait, did you do that or did mom do that? Did you come out the room and call for me or mom? And Chris is like, she did. Stephan's like, she did. Chris is like, yeah. I go, he's not here. And Chris says she slipped a little bit mentally. I can imagine. And it sounds like Stephan says here, yeah, same. Like, I did too, you know. For a long time, I kept expecting to wake up and find out this is all a nightmare. I'm sure Maddie wished she could have woken up from her real-life nightmare. This stinky McStinky guy who, Lord knows what he did to her. Introduced her to things a child should not even know about, probably gave her substances, filmed her, gaslit her to the point where she maybe thought she was in love and would run away with him. You know, all that enmity between Maddie and Jenn, and what a mess. But anyway, Chris is saying, oh, believe me, this has all been very surreal for us. I think I'm looking, and then it cuts off. They don't even realize they have 1 minute left. This is how early this call is. So let's read Numbers 23:19. God is not human that he should lie. So another version is like, God is not a man that he should lie, like Stephan's doing here. God is not human that he should lie, not a human being that he should change his mind. He's not flippant like us, you know. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? So God will fulfill the justice, trying to see through the lies and the subterfuge. And it's horrible, again, what Stephan's doing to his parents. He's taking advantage of his dad here. He got $100 for the phone account. He's getting underwear, maybe socks. He's misleading his dad, I believe, because Chris, way back at this point, no wonder they believed in Stephan's innocence. Even though Chris was the more of the strong one, in a way where Chris would say, if Stephan's lips are moving, he's lying. So Chris kind of knew more than Deborah, and I think they were kind of getting into it at this point because Deborah refused to even entertain the thought that Stephan could be guilty. Even though as she was faced with more evidence, I believe she started believing, okay, he really is guilty. It might have taken her longer to come to that realization than Chris. But Chris still believed it, especially here, even into July, I think it was, when Chris went up to the police station. They are believing Jenn and Maddie got into it. Jenn did something to end her life. Stephan's taking the fall. Yeah, he's got that other CSAM stuff. Maybe this is how Chris is thinking. I don't know. I'm just, spitballing here. But my boy didn't do this, and he's trying to be chivalrous and take the blame for Jenn, and the truth needs to come out. Jenn and her family, it's a cover-up. She needs to be blamed. She needs to be in jail. That was his thought process. I don't blame him, because if it's your boy sitting up here telling you, no, I didn't do that, I never would have wanted that for her, of course the part of you that wants to believe your child, your flesh and blood, your progeny, your brood, of course you would say, yeah, he didn't do it, and at this point, that's what Chris was hoping, because it threw their whole world in a tizzy, Can you imagine? I can't imagine this happening in someone's family. That's why I do feel sorry for these parents. Of course, I feel the most compassion and sorrow for Maddie. She's representative of so many girls who have been through stuff, and even if they didn't lose their lives, they could be feeling the impact. I'm thinking of a person now. They could be feeling the impact of what these creepers have done to them. And that's why we want to see this through. That's why we want to follow this so closely. That's why we want to get the calls that can be released legally and publicly. So, okay, I paid for this one, and I remember sending another money order. What I believe is for even more calls, maybe more than one. But the problem is, it's like getting the entire list of calls made, comparing them to which ones can legally be released, and understanding those conditions and understanding the contents, figuring out the dates. It's not necessarily easy. So I don't know when I will get them, but hopefully I will get them before long. So either way, go listen to the whole thing uninterrupted if you want to on Patreon, or just, what can we say? We can say we wait. We are waiting as I'm filming this, Friday, May 2nd. It's almost 1 p.m. We don't know the judge's decision yet that I know of. We don't know the judge's decision yet about what he's going to do with the evidence, found in the Google account or on Stephan's phone. If I find it out while I'm still in editor mode, maybe I can drop it here. Hopefully all this evidence will be kept in so the truth can come out. So thank you so much for watching all this. I need to edit this. Eventually I need to go to the post office because the docket and we just partnered on a different Florida case. And so I need to get a check down there, priority to them too, so we can get all that case info. I know it seems like I might disappear for a while, but I tell you guys, I really like doing my own research because the Lord helps me like see things like this and really see what we're missing and get certain things that maybe otherwise we wouldn't get. And now, of course, other people will be like, oh yeah, I knew that, and I'm getting it now, and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, you guys know the truth. You guys can see through all the BS. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for being so supportive and kind in your comments. And just thank you for my members and my Patreon members. I thank you for all your support. It might seem like I disappear for a while, but what I do is I go deep off into research. And it takes a lot of time. And so I'm really in research mode before I jump on camera, because what I want to bring you is something valuable. I want to bring you the truth. I like to bring you things no one else has brought you if I can, and just get to the fine points of this case, even as we wait for decisions to be made, for trials to happen. I love Florida. At least they give us public records. Some of these other places they don't, but a lot of them you got to come off the money, which I don't blame them because it takes time to edit, redact stuff. Nobody works for free. Nobody's in slavery here, you know. Anyway, that's my whole rant. That's why I prefer to do my own research and just take the time to put it all together, to bring you guys facts, to bring you guys truth, even more than mainstream media, because mainstream media is looking at the same court system that we're looking at. And sometimes we're going beyond that. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. There's more coming on different cases when we get these other videos. There's a lot in the queue, a lot of checks that are written and outstanding and money orders. So there's stuff that'll be coming back that I'll have to get together, edit, make sense of. I really appreciate all of you. Let me know what you think of this call. What a doozy. They seem more relaxed and I like it the way they're speaking. And I'm grateful Deborah wasn't on this call because it kind of, and they weren't at home and it wasn't that back and forth and all that. And you could kind of hear it better, don't you think? Thank you for watching. Check the links below. Take care.